Good morning. Today we'll discuss about the procedural errors during instrumentation. So, regardless of the instrumentation technique used for the cleaning and shaping of a root canal system, the main objectives of biomechanical preparation are to remove the pulp tissue, to remove the debris during the preparation or instrumentation, and remove complete removal of the bacteria, and also to shape the canals for obturation. So they'll make the canals ready for the obturation. As with the access opening preparation, if anyone shows up, in neglect to pay close attention to detail during this cleaning and shaping, it will result in violation of these principles of BMP, that is biomechanical preparation. So, these procedural errors and their sequelae or consequences can adversely affect the prognosis of root canal therapy or treatment. Therefore, the errors that most often occur during the canal preparation or instrumentation include loss of working length, deviations from the normal root canal anatomy, inadequate root canal preparation, and perforations. We'll talk the first procedural error, that is loss of working length. Loss of working length during cleaning and shaping is a major and common procedural error. The problem may be noted only when you place the master cone and take the radiograph before the obturation, or when the master apical file is short of established or the final working length. Then only you can recognize there is a loss of working length. And why this happens? What are the etiological features? Secondary to other endodontic procedural errors like blockage, canal blockage, or the formation of ledges, or fracture instruments or instrument separation, this can occur. So secondary to all these common errors, and also because of rapid increase in the file size and accumulation of dentinal debris in the apical third of the canal. So there is a loss of working length. If you see in this picture, there is a blockage of the apical third because of the deposition of the debris. So this is an obstruction for the file to get a patency till the apical third. Preventive measures includes frequent irrigation with hypochlorite, recapitulation, and periodic radiographic verification of the working length. Lack of attention to details such as malposition instrumentation stops or variations in reference points, frequent changing of the reference point, poor radiographic technique, and improper use of instruments can cause this loss of working length. So, to maintain the proper working length during cleaning and shaping, we have to follow some guidelines. What are those guidelines? They are use sound reproducible stable reference points. So whenever you check the working length, you have to use the same reproducible reference point, and pre-curve all your instruments either manually, or you can use 2 by 2 or 2 by 2 inch gauze, and continually observe the instrument stops as they approach the reference points, and directional instrument stops should be used. And when verifying the instrument position radiographically, use consistent radiographic angles, don't change it, and always maintain the original preoperative shape of the canal and clean and shape it within these confines. Use copious irrigation, definitely follow the recapitulation and throughout the cleaning and shaping procedure, and always use sequential file sizes. Do not skip in between file sizes, and you can use a chelating agent like EDTA always during your instrumentation. Next, we'll move on. One more thing to discuss here. What is a canal blockage? It is obstruction in a previously patent canal system that prevents your access to the apical constriction or apical stop. Fine. So we'll move on to the ledge formation or ledging. So what is a ledge? Ledge is an internal transportation of the canal that prevents the positioning of the instrument till the apex in an otherwise a patent canal. So already first it was a patent canal, but you have created an artificial irregularity so that the file is not passing into the previously patent canal. And what are the etiological factors or causes? It's caused by forcing the uncurved instruments apically short of working length in a curved canal. Never push a file in a curved canal without recurving the instrument. And rotating the file at the working length causes deviation from the natural canal pathway, straightening up the canal and create a ledge in the tensional wall. And the last one is a rapid advancement in the file sizes or skipping the file sizes. So how can you recognize or identify the ledge formation? Ledges occur on the outer wall of the canal. See here, it's an outer wall. This is the outer wall. So one may get suspicious that ledge has been formed when there is loss of tactile sensation or loose feeling of the file, or at the instead of binding at the apex, the file is passing very loosely. An instrument can no longer reach its estimated working length. And when in doubt, a radiograph that the tooth with instrument in place in the canal has to be taken to provide additional information. How do you correct it? Pre-curve the instrument before you go for the before you go for the filing in the curved canal. And to negotiate a ledge, choose a smaller number file, usually number 10 or 8 also, and give a small bend at the tip of the instrument and penetrate the file carefully into the canal. So give a bend and penetrate carefully inside the, you're bending the file here and place inside the canal slowly. Once the tip of the file is apical to the ledge, it is moved in and out of the canal utilizing ultra short push pull movements, so that when the file moves freely, it may be turned clockwise upon the withdrawal and to rasp reduce and eliminate the ledge. So when the ledge can be predictably bypassed, then efforts are directed towards establishing the apical patency with 10 number K5. So gently pass the next instruments. So 1 mm beyond your past previous instrument length. Like that, you have to slowly get the established working length and in the the patency of the canal. Nowadays, a significant improvement is occurred in the ledge management by the introduction of NiTi hand files. So you can use NiTi hand files and can overcome this ledge. So, but remember one thing: not all the ledges can be removed or bypassed. You have to try it first before you decide it. So you have to weigh the risk versus benefit before you making an effort. Prevention, coming to prevention of ledge formation, use of stainless steel patency files to determine the canal curvature and accurate evaluation of the radiograph and tooth anatomy, pre-curving the instruments for a curved canal, and use of flexible NiTi files, use safe-ended instruments with the non-cutting tips, and use sequential filing, avoid skipping instruments in between, the instrument sizes in between. Copious irrigation, recapitulation are must to prevent the ledge formation. So we'll move on to zipping or elliptication. What is a zipping? Zipping is defined as a transportation of the apical portion of the canal. Only apical part is transported. This is what are the cause for it? This is commonly seen in curved canal because of failure to pre-curve the files, forcing the instruments in the curved canal, using a large stiff instrument in a curved canal. So in zipping, apical foramen tends to become a teardrop shaped. See here, teardrop shaped or elliptical. It is transported from the curvature of the canal. It has been transported a while on the outer wall of the dentin. So zipping can be prevented by using a pre-curved files for the curved canals, using incremental filing technique, and using flexible files, and overcurving in apical part of the file, especially when working for severely curved canals. and you have elbow formation, and so when a file is not pre-curved and it is not placed inside the curved canal, an elbow is formed coronally to the elliptically shaped apical seat. Same thing, prevention features similar like ear zipping. See here, this is an elbow formation and this is a zip formation. So this is apical transported with a stiff file. This is the elbow formation. So we'll move on to stripping or lateral wall perforation. Stripping is a lateral wall perforation caused by over-instrumentation through a thin wall in the root and is most likely to happen on the inside or concave wall of the curved canal. See, this is the curved canal and this is the lingual wall of the canal. So it happens mostly on the distal wall of the mesial roots in the mandibular first molars. So stripping is easily detected by sudden appearance of hemorrhage or bleeding spot in a previously dry canal, and or else by sudden complaint of the pain by the patient. Have you managed this? This can be repaired by placing a repair material, that's perforation sealing material. So, but access to the mid-root perforation is most often difficult. Similarly, the stripping also will be present in the mid-root of the tooth canal, so it may be a bit difficult uh, for the sealing of the material. So be careful. Next comes your apical transportation. What is transportation? So, canal transportation or apical canal transportation is moving the position of the canal's normal anatomic foramen to a new location on the external root surface. So, see here, if you see in the picture, you can see A is a minor movement of the apical foramen, such as type 2. In the B, there is a moderate movement of the apical foramen, and coming to C, there is a severe movement of the apical foramen. You can see in this picture. So you must be very careful while doing the instrumentation. You cannot transport the apical foramen like this because you are leaving this apical third not filling with the obturation. This is not at all obturated properly. So the three-dimensional obturation is impossible in such cases. So this requires surgical intervention for correction, otherwise tooth is indicated for extraction. So you should be very careful while your instrumentation. So always have the tactile sensation grip on your instruments. And special anatomic problems in cleaning and shaping are mainly C-shaped canals. What are these problems associated? Because you can see here, the C is a continuous one, it's a very huge one, and will be having a large amount of pulpal tissue coronally placed, fibrous tissue with a bulky level, and also there will be a huge excessive hemorrhage. So these are the problems associated, and during instrumentation you will be feeling like the file is moving loosely and you can't have the tactile control on your file. So and also difficult in removing the large amount of excessive pulp tissue. So how do you manage this? You have to go for circumferential filing with a copious irrigation of hypochlorite, and you can use ultrasonic tips to remove the tissue, fibrous tissue. So always pre-curve your instruments, and you have to give an intrapulpal anesthesia with the which acts as an adjunct to your nerve block. So with your inferior nerve block, or you had to go for thermoplastic Gutta-Percha technique as obturation technique. You can't go for a lateral condensation technique here. We'll move on to root perforations. Perforations is a mechanical or pathological communication between the root canal system and the external root surface. So this is a pathological condition where caries or root resorption or mechanical and hydrogenic perforations are the procedural mishaps that can significantly affect the long-term prognosis of the tooth. So you must be very careful while you clean and shape the tooth. And perforations can occur at any stage while performing endodontic therapy, that is during access cavity preparation that we discussed in the last part 1 about during your access cavity preparation, below the PDL attachment, into the PDL attachment, above your alveolar crest, bone level or below. So likewise you have what do you say, that perforations that occur during instrumentation also, but it leads to canal perforation at cervical, mid-root and apical level perforation. These are at 3 stages: cervical, middle and apical. But what happens is access cavity, during your access cavity preparation, perforations are a bit repairable. But here during your instrumentation, the perforation which are occur are undesirable and sometimes they are irreparable. So you should be very careful. So we'll move on to apical root perforations. What are these apical root perforations? These are mainly occur at the apical third of the canal. So these can occur when instrument goes into the periradicular tissue that is beyond the confines of the root canal, or it can occur by overuse of chelating agents along the straight and stiffer large sized instruments to negotiate ledge or canal blockage or zipping, etc. So how can you recognize it? There will be a sudden pain during the treatment. The patient will scream or tell, suddenly I have got a pain. They will complain of the pain, or a sudden appearance of hemorrhage or bleeding. So use a paper point and check for the bleeding point, and place an instrument into the artificial opening which we have created and take an X-ray and confirm whether the file is within the confines of the root canal or it gone beyond the or outside of the canal. So coming to mid-root perforations, the mid-root perforations are commonly occurs in the curved canals when a ledge is formed during instrumentation along inside the curvature of the root canal. As it is straightened out, that is strip perforation may result. Earlier we discussed during the strip perforation, stripping. So the similar way it will perforate in the mid-root. So usually it is caused by over-instrumentation and over-preparation of the thin wall of the root, or the preparation of the concave, over-preparation of the concave side of the curved canal. And this is also recognized by a certain appearance of bleeding in already a dry canal, and also the patient complaints of pain. Move on to cervical canal perforations. It commonly occurs while locating the canal orifice and flaring of the coronal third of the root canal, and is also recognized by sudden appearance of the blood, a bleeding point coming from the periodontal ligament space here. This is the first sign of perforation, and here we can detect by electronic apex locators, and also we can blot dry the area and we can see directly in the direct visualization, or you can use magnifying loops or microscope to enhance your vision during this procedural error. And how you manage this? Management is purely by with the help of non-surgical and surgical methods here. So the success of the perforation repair depends upon the hemostasis, accessibility and visibility, and use of various micro-instrumentation techniques to reach the area, and also selection of the repair material, perforation repair material. If the defect is small, hemostasis can be achieved easily, and perforation can be sealed and repaired during three-dimensional obturation of the canal. But if the perforation defect is large, the moisture control will be difficult for us. So one should prepare for the surgical approach of the perforation repair. So Lemon in 1992 gave the internal matrix concept for the repair of the inaccessible strip perforations using microsurgical instrumentation technique. Here the matrix will be of what do you say, that it will be material that which will be biocompatible, sterile, easy to manipulate, and it has to stimulate osteogenesis. So we have to place the matrix, then from inside you have to place the repair material. This is the internal matrix technique. So what do you consider before going there? The 4 dimensions we consider: the level of the perforation, either it is cervical, middle or apical, and location, Of course, where it is exactly located, you have to confirm with using X-rays, radiographs, and you have to use digital radiography along with your magnifying vision, that is loops or microscope, and size. As I discussed, if it is smaller, you can achieve the hemostasis very well. If it is large, it will require time, and also the prognosis will be bad or poor. And the time between your what do you say, that occurrence of the perforation and repair of the perforation, as we discussed in the part 1. So the levels are middle, coronal, and apical. So the most, what do you say, that in the coronal region, the prognosis will be good, worst in the region of apical, better in the region of middle or middle level. So the more apical the perforation, the more favorable the prognosis. Middle third is a bit challenge for us, and also apical. Coronal will be the better one to seal it properly. So all this management of the perforations in apical third, or what do you say, that middle or the coronal, we can seal with using materials such as biocompatible materials. So there are some ideal requirements for the materials also. They must be non-toxic. They must adhere to the preparation walls of the cavity and seal the root canal system. They have to be easy to handle, radiopaque, dimensionally stable, well tolerated by the periradicular tissue, non-absorbable. They should not corrode it, and they should not stain the periradicular tissues. So, for example, first of all, you have to obtain a dry field by using hemostasis. Enhance your vision. You have to use your loops or microscope, and apply a rubber dam if possible, if it is an accessible area. So you have to choose your material as per the location and size of the perforation. And you have barrier materials like resorbable barriers. So these are it is non-surgically passed through the access cavity first, and internally through the defect into a 3-walled osseous defect, conforms to the anatomy of the perforation above. So it's easy in the case of middle third perforations. So you can easily place and leave the thing, and you can obturate it afterwards. So matrix is placed, then repair material is placed on the, and according to it conforms to the anatomy, it adheres well. So there will be more success from your resorbable barriers. And there are some non-resorbable barriers like MTA. And MTA is, as you know, it's very excellent. It exhibits excellent compatibility. It can use both non-resorbable barrier as well as a repair material. So it's a material choice in the even in the case of moisture presence, and also where the areas are some inaccessible, and also visibility is compromised. And the other materials like amalgam superi, BA, resin cements, composite bonded restorations, calcium phosphate cements are also can be used. And mainly the hydroxyapatite particles are deposited into the perforation and condensed with the pluggers, because this stops bleeding. So this is the most what do you say, that biocompatible technique for the repair the perforation defect. And also GIC we can place on top of the hydroxyapatite particles directly. So what are the precautions to prevent perforations? Evaluation of the anatomy before starting the endodontic treatment. Use always smaller flexible files for the curved canals, and pre-curve it. Do not skip the file sizes in between. Recapitulation is a must for even with a smaller file between sizes, and confirm the working length and maintain it with the instruments within the confines of the working length. And use anti-curvature filing techniques in curved canals. Minimize the overuse of GG drills when you do the pre-coronal flare technique, etc. Avoid overuse of chelating agents like EDTA, and you use always copious irrigation of the canals to prevent the canal blockage by the debris or by dentin jobs. And we have the problems associated with irrigation also. The main irrigant that which causes problems is sodium hypochlorite. So always be careful. You have to use rubber dam whenever you use hypochlorite as an irrigating agent. Never try to use hypochlorite without a rubber dam. So these are the signs and symptoms where you can see severe pain, swelling, erythema, paresthesia, and hemorrhage of the tissues and external tissues as well as internal tissues. So what is the treatment? You can give a immediate regional block with a long-acting LA like bupivacaine, monitor for half an hour, and drainage of blood exudate if present. And you have to keep the patient on antibiotic coverage like penicillin 500 milligrams 5 times for 7 days or 1 week, and you have to give analgesics like NSAIDs, and corticosteroids can be advised sometimes, and ice packs followed by warm saline soaks, and surgical intervention and hospitalization in only severe cases where the pain is not reducing even after 1 hour. So prevention: do not force the irrigant, never place the needle deeply, always use a rubber dam. So these are small tips for you. So if the tooth is vital or partially vital tooth, you have to use hypochlorite. If there is a persistent bleeding while access opening, use 0.5% of hypochlorite and 3% of hydrogen peroxide. And cleaning and shaping, as a lubricant you can use saline. If there is a discharge of exudate, you can use warm sterile saline. And if there is an anaerobic infection, use hydrogen peroxide only. So these are some clinical tips while doing a cleaning and shaping. So that's all for today. We'll discuss problems or errors, procedural errors associated with obturation and post-paste preparation in the next part. Thank you.